Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's now 3:30. I will call the Infrastructure, Transportation, and Safety Subcommittee to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, moving on to delegations. We do not have any today. And so item number 4 is report of the Manager of Environmental Services. And item 4.1 is Drinking Water Quality Management Standard 2020 Infrastructure Review. So who would like to speak to that?
Yep, I can speak to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, every year we have to do an infrastructure review with top management. So it's consists of our compliance officer, the director, Mr. Dulovic, and myself. And it's a Safe Drinking Water Act requirement that we have to report this to council so that it creates transparency between the two groups, so that everyone's kind of aware of the infrastructure work that we're doing, ongoing projects, completed projects, system operations. So we review 3 key components. There's an annual maintenance review where we look at the main breaks for the reporting period, frozen water services, valve hydrant programs, water loss, customer complaints, that sort of thing. So it's kind of a in-depth overview of all of our operational aspects. And then we also look at a major projects review where we look at all the ongoing projects that are still going. And then we also look at the completed projects.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any questions on the report that was circulated? Councillor Ingram?
Thank you. So if I'm looking at page 1 of the maintenance review report, 2020 was quite a bit lower. It doesn't look like we've had the number of main breaks since about 2012, perhaps. Do you have an explanation for that? Is it just that we've been upkeeping our infrastructure better, or was it? I can't imagine it was related to COVID, but is there an explanation for that?
Well, so just for clarification, so there's the number 12 is what's reported on that report because we met in November. So we actually finished the year with 17 main breaks, which still is lower than a lot of our typical average over the last 10 years. That being said, it's February 24th and we've already had 12 main breaks this year. So it's, which, you know, in comparison to last year does seem like quite a bit, but if you look at the trends from 2019, 2018, the years where we were having 30, the season where we have it the most is in winter, and it's January, February, early March, where we do have the bulk of our water main breaks. So although last year was extremely good, it seems like this year we're more or less on pace for what a typical year would be. And there are contributing factors to it. Typically this time of year, it is the weather, as the frost line shifts and the ground shifts and that sort of thing that can cause a lot of issues. But what happens too is, for example, on Blake Street, we've had 3 water main breaks on Blake Street this year alone. And sometimes what happens on an older water main like that, a 4-inch cast iron water main, once we dig it up once, do the repair, you've just exposed that water main and kind of affected the integrity of the pipe a little bit. So sometimes you can have additional main breaks that occur as a result of that, which is unfortunate, but more or less unavoidable. So it looks like as of right now, we're trending towards our typical, 25 to 35 main breaks a year. But it has slowed up in the last week and a half, knock on wood. So hopefully that continues well into the spring.
Great, thank you. Councillor Gaffney, you had your hand up?
Yeah, in January of last year, rained most of January, so the frost didn't get near as deep last year. So I'm sure that that helped cut the numbers down quite a bit.
Yeah, it certainly did. And our operators, they responded well. Like 2-3 main breaks I think they had on one Saturday that they did, out there working all day, and I think that was one of those minus 28 degree days with the wind chills. So yeah, the crew's been working really hard and keeping the customer service level up during this time. So it's been really good work on their part the last couple of months.
Any other questions? Councillor Ingram?
Thank you. Sorry, I have another one. I'm looking at table B for ongoing projects. And can you explain the unidirectional flushing program, please?
Yeah, so that program was, it started with my predecessor, Mike Mortimer. He was looking into the unidirectional flushing program because, as you know, we have a high iron content, and one of our most common complaints is, discolored water. So we currently have in place a flushing program where we flush every hydrant in the city twice a year. And that's to, turn over the water, try to reduce the amount of discolored water calls that we get in the system. So it's a very proactive flushing program that we have right now. So exploring the unidirectional flushing concept is a way to look at a couple things. It's water conservation, and it's also it's less proactive as it is scientific method. So we've reached out to Jacobs Consulting, who's been hired to kind of create a pilot project of how the flushing program should be delivered. So basically, they do a model of the city. They create flushing velocities based on pipe size, pipe age, pipe material, that sort of thing. And from there, we develop a flushing program where instead of just flushing every hydrant twice a year, now we're more strategically flushing sections of water mains, sections of neighborhoods, that sort of thing. And it's using what's called scouring velocity, where it flushes up to a certain velocity so that it breaks up a lot of the material that's built up in those old cast iron pipes. And so yeah, there's a few things there that attribute to it, but a big one is water conservation. So we would ultimately be flushing less hydrants, because if you had one run that maybe there was 6 hydrants a part of, you might only flush 1 or 2 of those hydrants, but you're also flushing a different velocity. So there's some up and downs with it, but there's definitely more pros than cons with it. So we're at the stage right now of that program where we're doing a data sharing agreement with them. So we're getting them all the information they need to create the model to determine the velocities, and then they're going to basically give us the tools, and then we're going to take it internally and develop the program ourselves from there.
Thank you. And you think that that program will continue to flush the water so that the iron content isn't going to settle in those pipes, and we're not going to have to do that twice a year? Or will once a year be enough with that program?
Yeah, it's kind of a trial, and that's why we're doing it as a pilot. We want to do one section of the city probably this year, because what goes in hand with this is we have to do a full valve maintenance program. We have to make sure that all the valves in the city work, and the ones that don't work, that we've identified which ones don't work, because you need that infrastructure to make this program work. But best case scenario, if these velocities work and the structure of the program works, then we can get away from the flushing all 800 hydrants twice a year to, we still have to do maintenance on the hydrants every year, but we wouldn't be flushing them all. It would be more making sure they work properly for the fire department, because that is something that we would do regardless. We would still inspect all the hydrants, but we wouldn't necessarily be doing a full flush twice a year like we're doing. So that's hopefully the goal of it all. Yeah, but other cities like Hamilton and Barrie have used the same company, and from what I've gotten from them, it has been successful. But every system's different, right? So I think it will be successful, but we just need to develop it to suit our needs, right?
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions on that item? We do have a staff recommendation that the DWQMS 2020 infrastructure, and it's all there for you. Moved by Councillor Burbach. Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. And so then item 4.2 is similar but related to management. And Mr. Rose, did you want to talk about that really quickly?
Yeah, the two look very similar, and they are in some respects. But the first report was more for specifically for infrastructure, whereas this one is it's a review of our drinking water quality management system. Again, very similar in that it's a Safe Drinking Water Act requirement that we have to fulfill every year as part of maintaining our drinking water permit. So it's a review of the annual ministry inspections that they do on the city, the internal audit findings, and operational performances. So again, it's considered a top management review because it is done with the director, myself, and the compliance coordinator. And then again, same transparency. It needs to go to council so that they're aware of the current state of our drinking water system. So again, there's 3 components of this. The review of the ministry inspection, which there were no non-compliances. There were some minor best practice recommendations, which is pretty standard with every annual report that we receive. Through the internal and external audits, there were no significant deficiencies identified, which is great. And again, some operation opportunities for improvement within that. We take all those considerations and then we develop the next year. We create action plans to take their suggestions and build on our QMS program and that sort of thing. And then the third is operational performances, which is it overlaps with the infrastructure review. So I won't go into too much detail, but it again looks at customer complaints, which typically relate to water quality, which relates to our drinking water quality management system. So that's how they're all kind of intertwined that way.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions on that report? Seeing none, there is a staff recommendation to receive the report. Moved by Councillor Ingram. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you very much. So then we'll move on to the report of the project engineer. And we have item 5.1, which is the Argyle and Mackenzie Street reconstruction projects. And there was a public engagement and recommendations that came out of that. And so who will be speaking on that piece?
The project engineer, Nathan Bottom, just give you a brief overview and is available for any questions that the committee may have.
Perfect.
So Nathan.
Go ahead.
Yes. All right, everybody. Well, the engineering department's planning on a full reconstruction of Argyle Mackenzie from St. David to Cambria Streets. The current infrastructure doesn't meet the city standards or current standards in general. So as a result, just moving forward, we're planning a full upgrade, upgrading the existing sanitary, storm, and water mains, replacing the existing sanitary water main or water services to the property line. And obviously putting in the new curb and gutter sidewalk on one side, upgrading the asphalt roadway, and then widening Argyle Street from the existing 6.2 to 7 meters. We did have a virtual public engagement session, and we uploaded all the documentation to the city's website, and we saw quite a bit of traffic on our engineering webpage. So overall, that process was successful. We had quite a few people call in and discuss some of the project details with us. And overall, the residents of those two streets are really excited for this project to go forward in 2021.
Great, thank you. I had a question more around the success of the online engagement. Would this be something that you could foresee we would do in the future as well, either in addition or in lieu of the in-person meetings that are sometimes held? Because I know sometimes people are, aren't able to make the sessions, or they're working or things like that. So I'm just wondering about the future of engagement, whether we learned a little something about that. And I saw Mr. Delovic, Ed, your hand's up.
Yes, through the chair. We did have a discussion in-house about that from staff. So we'll definitely continue with both. We still like the in-person discussion, but we recognize, based on the traffic that we had, not everyone can always make it to the day that we have it. There's, life gets in the way, and sometimes you can't get there. So by having this online, it may not be as much commentary on it, but the plans would be available, our standard questions and answers that we would have, and again, allowing those people who can't make it to review the plans and then call us up or fill out questionnaires post. So it was very successful. So it's something that we want to do in the future and do both of them.
And I like the idea from council's perspective that there aren't any surprises. So if somebody isn't able to make it in person, by the time we get to the point where the tender comes in and we're about to approve something, we have, we're certainly reducing the possibility of people coming saying they didn't know or they didn't have an opportunity to review and things like that. So I do like that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this also provides members of council the opportunity to review the drawings at their leisure as well, because you two can't, councilors can't make the meetings. There's a lot of meetings that you go to. So if you're interested in a particular project, then you can have a look at the drawings, and in case you do get any questions from the residents out there, sometimes they'll call you directly, and then you'll have an opportunity to look at the drawings yourself as well. And just a reminder on this one, we are implementing. If someone looks at the drawings, is looking at them, we have that temporary water main that we'll be installing on the surface so that we can save the trees out there as part of this project. So just a reminder on what we're doing here as part of this reconstruction project.
Great, thank you. Any other questions on this? There is a staff recommendation there. Do you want to move that, Councillor Burbeck? Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Thank you so much. And then now we have the capital project update. It was circulated and it's quite extensive. But Ed, did you want to give us some highlights?
It's on mute here. Yes. Yes, I'll give you some highlights. But first of all, I just want to thank the members of council for the committee for some of the questions you've asked on the water. I think it's very important that council be engaged on that. And as noted, as the owner, you are responsible for water. and you can be held liable if something goes wrong with it. So I just want to thank you for asking the questions, reading the reports, and being engaged on it. I'm not trying to scare you, but it's important that council be engaged on this and be confident that staff that we are doing our job and ensuring that we provide safe quality water to the residents and visitors here in Stratford. So having said that, just going to hit on a few highlights. Just on the bridge improvements, the footbridge bridge replacement in Queen's Park. The footings are in place, and I think today they were bringing in the prefabbed bridge to install, so that's going on today. And then have a little bit of work after that to finish up the month of March, but that will be available once the good weather gets here for people to use come this spring. As noted, a number of other projects are finished. We finally finished the Erie Street Sidewalk project. There's a little bit of handrail that had to go in near the railway tracks, so that finally came in, and we got that installed. So that project is completed now. The Huron Street Reconstruction project, as the committee is aware, you approved the going ahead with the road diet. We are scheduling a open house in March. Again, more than likely be a virtual open house, getting the notices out and letting the public see what we're proposing for that project. Next of note is the TJ Dolan multi-use trail. We're working on the first part of the project on the design. It says complete from St. Vincent to St. David. It's now been confirmed that we will have a public meeting on March 5th to consider and hear public comments on the possible closure of TJ Dolan from St. David to Center Street. Following that meeting, that we'll report back to council on that. And if you look at the other engineering department works, there's a lot of activity going on in subdivisions and site plans, which is good news. And you saw yesterday too at the public meeting with respect to the 500 unit proposal for north of McCarthy. Just need to get the servicing done on these properties and get the building permits out. With the service lots we have now, we've seen more activity than we did last January and February at this time from a building permit activity. So there's still strong demand for housing in the community. So that's a positive in that there's still people wanting to buy homes overall for the economy and are interested in Stratford itself. On the water side, just draw your attention to a new variable frequency drive motor. And what that means is before, the old motor there was either on or off. So it was all out or off. So with the VFD motors, as we call them, you can ramp it up. The motors start up slowly and then keep going up until they can reach their full power. Sometimes you don't need that. So by doing that, it's better for the overall operation of the system. You don't have that water hammer going on. And also, we have that lower electrical usage. And I think, Councilor Vasilakos, you mentioned that the other day during the greenhouse gas discussion about works that we've been doing. There's a lot of work that we've been doing over the years that I don't think we brought to the forefront. We always talk about putting in VFDs. Several years ago at the water pollution control plant, we put in a new blower which used less energy. So we've been doing a lot of projects where we've been shrinking our energy footprint, and we'll continue to do that. So as motors reach the end of their life, we look at installing these type of VFD motors. Next at the water pollution control plant, again, the ultraviolet system is nearing the end of its life. New parts are no longer being manufactured, so we'll have to look at a new UV system. Again, there's an opportunity there to look at something that uses less power as well. So that'll be part of when we look at it, if we can do more energy efficient ultraviolet system in there, and again, shrink that energy usage and save on some of the energy costs that we have. A couple of things in operations, other than the normal winter maintenance that you've been getting the regular updates on from staff. We're still, I mentioned it before, but we are working on a report on a mattress recycling program. Hopefully, we're hoping for the next meeting to have that report to subcommittee to consider. We're looking at it. There would be a fee, but the mattresses would be recycled and they wouldn't be landfilled. The box springs not so much, but the mattresses themselves can be a challenge when trying to compact them in the landfill, and they do take up a lot of space and a lot of work to bury them. So And finally, we are working on implementation of the organics program, just working out the logistics to expand the multi-residential. So staff are looking at the issues there, discussing with our contractor, what are the challenges, what are the solutions to implement something like that. So those are the highlights.
Councillor Rohrbach, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Just on the topic of organics, I was wondering, a couple people have asked me, would it be possible to have somewhere at the landfill site that people could bring their organics? So even if they didn't get a regular collection at their house, that they would be able to bring it to some kind of large container, I guess, and be able to just deposit it themselves, because there are people who are quite enthusiastic about coming on board and they are worried that their landlord won't want to participate in the program. So is there a way that we could create something where people could, you know, if they were motivated, they could bring their own organics to us?
We would have to look at that. We'll have to look at our certificate of approval at the landfill, what it allows, doesn't allow. Again, the logistics of collecting it and then transporting it to the processor, and what how they need to receive that. So there are some logistics that we would have to look at, and you know, there would be some additional cost to it, but there are a number of things that we would have to look at on that. So if that's something that the committee wants us to look at, I would request a motion on that so that we could investigate it and report back.
I would make a motion that we would look into what that would entail.
Okay.
And I actually just had one more green bin question.
How about we deal with the motion and then we can go on to the next item. So there is a motion to explore some options of having a centralized depot
Organic collection
at the landfill. Councillor Ingram, did you have a question?
Yes, so as part of that report, when it comes back, if we could also include the number of people we would need to have partake in that in order to make it viable, just from an economic standpoint, that might be beneficial as well, because as we expand this organic program, presumably more people are going to be doing it from their home and not requiring it at the landfill. So we'll need to be able to see what the life cycle of that program might be.
That's a good point. Good. So any other comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you. So Councillor Rohrbach, you had something else, and then Councillor Gaffney.
Yeah, just a very quick question. My neighbor down the street, their green bin went missing. So can they purchase another one? Do they get another? Like, how does that work if their green bin goes missing?
Yeah, through the chair, if they contact City Hall, ask for Kate Simpson. Don't remember Kate's extension. She's the person to anything to deal with recycling, waste, the organics program. She is the person to talk to. So okay. I wish I remembered her extension, but if they ask for Kate Simpson, they can direct through the switchboard to her.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. And Councillor Gaffney?
I'm still having access problems to my G file, so I want to ask a question. Queen Street, anything happening with that moving forward?
Yes, sorry, yeah, it's been reported before, but that is we do have the environmental compliance approval that's now been received. We're doing an open house in April, and so we'll be tendering in the spring and again the fall construction. So we want to get the tender out early, and so hopefully we'll get a number of contractors interested in it and get some decent pricing through the competitive process.
Thanks, because I have had some people asking me about it.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Perfect. Anything else? I was just going to comment really quickly back to the original point there. The Walkerton Clean Water Center does have a course for counselors to take that helps them understand their responsibilities and know what to look at when they're reading those reports. I highly recommend anyone on this committee certainly to take that course. It's, I believe, a half day. It's really very interesting, and I challenge you to get 100% on the final exam like I did. Just kidding. So, but if everybody could take it, it really is a very good course to understand our responsibilities. And so that when staff come to us with these reports, you have a really good understanding of what they are and why they're coming to us. So anything else on the project? Councillor Gaffney, then Councillor Burback.
Well, just a question on what you just said. Is there a link or something that we could have to check it out, or where do you look up the information?
I routinely get emails from them. I will forward, the next time the courses come up, I will actually forward it to the clerk, and then they can send it out to everyone on council.
Okay, good, thanks.
Through the chair, I'll get our manager, Johnny, to have a look too. I wonder, they may have something online too, so we'll look into that as well, Johnny. So if we could follow up on that to see what's available potentially.
Okay.
So again, if it can be done online, maybe it's something easier for councillors to have a look at. But it is quite informative.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Burback?
Thanks. Sorry, I meant to bring this up along with the green bin conversation because I had somebody else ask me about oil, deep fry oil. And I'm wondering, could we combine a possible depot for green bin organics with a deposit for oil as well? Because they were saying it doesn't work too well to put it in the green bin now that goes to the curb because it's just kind of awkward. And maybe they're just squeamish about just dumping it right in, but maybe they shouldn't be squeamish about that. I don't know. So like the cooking oil question, I guess, would be another one. Does it go with the green bin organics, or can it go with green bin organics? And can there be a drop-off point for that as well?
To the chair, yeah, we can definitely look into that. So
yeah, maybe that
we'll
goes in with
what's
the last
involved.
motion, just to kind of put in with the cooking oil question with it.
If everyone's okay, that's like a friendly amendment, just include the cooking oil. If the clerk can just include that,
Yeah.
If the chair's good with that, then.
Great, thank you.
Perfect. Thank
Sorry,
you.
I didn't remember that earlier.
That's okay. So if there's nothing else on the capital project update, on the Councillor Gaffney, did you have something else?
I think I might have a new business thing.
Okay,
So carry on.
So we'll just say advisory committee and outside board minutes are there for you to read at your leisure. And so, sure, any new business. Councillor Gaffney, you have something you'd like to bring up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I sort of think this might be something our committee to look at. If not, it might be social services. But in our several conversations on the environment lately, one of the things I was thinking about, as we all are probably, is what the city can do to help moving forward. And I asked about a couple of projects that are coming up, like Britannia Street and the one that they're doing in beside the fire hall, the small units thing. And I don't know if there's some like if we can look at doing, I don't know, solar panels, that sort of thing to help. So I put that out there as maybe that's some way the city can start making good choices, I guess you could say. So I'm not really asking a question. I'm just planting the seed, I guess you could say. So thank you.
Ed, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, through the chair, just so as it happens, I was involved with the meeting yesterday with social services staff. There's a group of us that are meeting on that project, and that was on the agenda. So we talked about for the phase 2 to look at solar panels, to look at geothermal, those type of things. What would it take to go all electric for heating, air conditioning? I think one of the speakers on Monday talked about, to meet our targets by 2050 if all homes went to electric heat. So it's definitely something that staff will be looking into. As I commented, we'll need to look at what are the upfront capital costs, what are the operating costs, those type of things. What does it mean from a life cycle analysis too? Yes, you may have the higher upfront capital costs. Maybe you'll see a savings in in energy costs in the future. We have to take into account too what's happening with the carbon tax, those type of things. So that definitely was on an agenda item, and it's something that they will be looking at as part of those, not just Britannia 2, but I also indicated for the other project that they were considering.
So any other comments or questions or items to bring up? If not, our next subcommittee meeting is on March 24th. And Ed, will this be your last subcommittee meeting with us?
No, it won't be. Although I'm supposed to be on vacation, I'm actually going to be. I'm going to be here at the next meeting because there's a number of reports that are outstanding that I want to be here for to speak to. So that, and I know some of my staff here are quite relieved that I'll still be helping out on a number of things. So it won't be my last meeting. You'll still see my smiling face at the next subcommittee meeting in March. That's my plan right now. So because there are a number of things that we're trying to get done over the next several weeks.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we will see everyone then. If I could get a motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Burbach. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Stay
Good
safe.
afternoon, everyone.